welcome back to another episode of our Kings related podcast, wherever you may be. And this recap of the Kings 42-point victory over the Charlotte Hornets on this Monday evening in Sacramento, 130 to 88 win for the Kings, who are now 29 and 28 on this season. And the Kings took care of business after that horrendous loss on Friday night against Golden State. The Sacramento Kings, they took care of business. And after a couple of days of practice, went on Saturday and Sunday, I thought the Kings looked a little better. I thought the spacing was better from this Kings team, but the turnovers are still an issue. And I think I believe, in my honest opinion, I think the turnovers will continue to be an issue for this team going forward. But that's one thing they have got to clean up here going forward. The Kings, they had 18 turnovers in this game. You had 4 turnovers by Sabonis. You had 3 from LaVine. Malik Monk had 5 turnovers. Fultz had 3 turnovers. LaRavia had 3. JV had 3 turnovers. Keegan Murray, 2 turnovers. Keegan Murray had 0 turnovers. But yeah, Sabonis had 4 turnovers. But you got to clean those up. And even with the 18 turnovers by Sacramento, Charlotte only had 13 points off those 18 turnovers. And if the Kings were playing a better team, because Charlotte's not a great team, they're still in their rebuild. But if they were playing one of the better teams in the NBA, the Kings do not win this game. They absolutely don't. This is a game that you don't win. But the Kings, they took care of business. And the Charlotte Hornets, they rolled into town with 14 wins this season. And they left with the same amount. And Charlotte right now, they're on I believe it's a 9-game road trip here. Plus you have the All-Star break to kind of break it up. But in a game that the Kings desperately needed after Friday night, they jumped all over the Hornets in that late third quarter after the Kings came out of halftime just asleep in that third. We'll get into that. And they pulled away from the end of the third. And in that fourth quarter where they really erupted, because the Kings, they had a 20-point lead in the first half. Charlotte, in that third quarter, they cut it down to 9. As much as 9. Kings got it back up to 16 after the third quarter. And then they erupted in that fourth. And they ended up winning the game by 42 points. So much needed game for the Kings to get back to one game over 500. And the star of this game was Zach LaVine, who absolutely caught fire in this game. And, and I thought the best thing that I saw from Zach LaVine in this game is I thought he was aggressive. And I think an aggressive Zach LaVine is a good Zach LaVine that the Kings need since he's joined the squad with the flurry of trades that they made there at the deadline. So, but after a few days of practice, he looked like the Zach LaVine that we've seen in the past when he was on a different team. But he looked more in sync with like his teammates. He shot 16 of 19 from the field, including he was 8 of 9 from 3. And he had 42 points in that game. And 18 of those he had 18 points in that fourth quarter, where he only played around 5 minutes in that fourth before Doug Christie took the starters out and put in the reserves. But 18 points in that fourth, and is 5 minutes of action. And also in that first half, Zach LaVine had 23 points in that first half. So just absolutely incredible job by Zach in this game. And that's the Zach that we need here as the Kings are in that play-in mix in the Western Conference, trying to stay in that play-in, because it's going to be a battle, and we'll get into that in the play-in here coming up later in this recap episode. But also DeMar DeRozan, a little of everything. DeMar DeRozan, he hit the glass early, then started making the extra pass, and he eventually started hitting his shots. And DeRozan, he finished with 18 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal, and a well-rounded, complete game for the ageless veteran that is of DeMar DeRozan. When the Sacramento Kings are at its best, the ball runs through the big man, and that is Domantas Sabonis on almost every possession. That's where the Kings are at their best. Give the ball to your big man in Sabonis. That is what happened in that first half. I think that was the best first half I've seen from this team since all the trades that they made. And Sabonis, 7 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, but also, again, he had those. If you want to look at the downside of Sabonis' game tonight, he did have those 4 turnovers in the game. Malik Monk, in his first sub out of the game in that first quarter, but he spends a lot of the time in this game with the second unit. So I think his hybrid role will take some getting used to now, because he bears the load a lot of times on this team, with like the ball handling, with the Kings not having a real true point guard since trading Fox. But Malik Monk, 13 points. He had 10 assists in this game. but also he coughed it up five times, as I mentioned earlier in this episode. But the down part of this game, I thought the Kings really good first half. They erupted in that fourth. If it wasn't for that third quarter, the Sacramento Kings, they came out flat out of halftime. I thought they fell. I thought they came out asleep out of the locker room. Keegan Murray, he scored the Kings' first 5 points of the third quarter. He finished with 10 points, 5 rebounds. But the Charlotte Hornets, the Kings also had 8 turnovers in that third quarter. But the Charlotte Hornets, give them credit. They cut a 20-point Kings lead. They got it down to 9 points. But Charlotte, they were the more aggressive team in that third quarter. Got to give them credit. But I thought the Kings, they finished that third quarter on a nice little run that carried over to that fourth quarter, where they just absolutely erupted in that fourth. Mainly, I thought it was Zach LaVine. I thought they got back to the defensive intensity as well in that fourth quarter that we saw in that first half. Keon Ellis, I thought he started the game off well, but he didn't leave the game. He did not play in that second half. He did not return with a ankle sprain. He did come out after he hit a pair of threes in that first quarter, but in the second he rolled his ankle, did not return. It was an ankle sprain, so we'll see what his availability is for the game coming up on Wednesday in Utah against the Utah Jazz. But just you look at the box score here. The Kings 34-23 in that first quarter, 31-22 in that second quarter. Third quarter is the real issue for the Kings. The Charlotte Hornets 27-23, and it was the 42-point fourth quarter for the Kings that really put this game. They really put that game away at the end of the third, and then that 42-point fourth that really put the game away for a 42-point game. And this is consecutive games for the Charlotte Hornets. 98 points that they've lost by, because they lost big a couple nights ago in Portland, and then losing big here tonight. So it doesn't get easier as Charlotte, they play Golden State tomorrow night. But the Kings, I thought they shot the ball well from 3. They made 20 of 38 from 3. Kings, they shot close to 55% from the field. Out rebounded the Hornets on the glass, but also they dominated the fast break points in this game, and they outscored the Kings bench outscored the Charlotte Hornets bench in this game. But really nice game, much needed after that game on Friday night, and it was nice to see Zach LaVine. I think Zach LaVine, he had that game right before the All-Star break in New Orleans that the Kings kind of wasted. They got that back here tonight with his 42-point performance. Just absolutely incredible by Zach LaVine. This is the Zach that the Kings need for this stretch run. 16 of 19 from the field in this game. Just absolutely incredible. And if you can get this Zach LaVine going forward, that is a huge boost for this Kings team as they try to improve their positioning in that play-in in the Western Conference. And speaking of that play-in, with the Kings now with this win, 29-28, they play the Utah Jazz on Wednesday night. Don't take that team lightly. Go into Utah. Take care of business. You are a better team than Utah. I believe you've beaten them twice already this season. Take care of business. That is the first game of this 4-game road trip. Then you go to Houston. Then you go to Dallas. And then to the Mile High City before you come home on March 7th for that emotional game. It's the return of De'Aaron Fox on March 7th before you hit the road again against the Los Angeles Clippers. So you got some tough games coming up, and you're facing team. You look at the teams in the play-in right now. You got the just looking at the standings here with the teams in the play-in. You still play the Clippers, and the Clippers, they lost tonight. They are sitting at 31-26. Minnesota, you don't play Minnesota. That you split that series at 2-2. Minnesota tonight, they came back from a 25-point deficit to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Incredible win. They were in that 7th seed, the first play-in spot. The Dallas Mavericks, you play them on this upcoming road trip. You gotta beat that team. The good thing about Dallas, the Kings are already 2-0 against the Mavs. Can you make it 3-0? If you can beat these teams ahead of you, that would be really good for the Kings, especially in this tough play-in race. It's going to be tough here as you only got 25 games left. Golden State, you lead in that season series 2-1. One more game against Golden State. You know what Golden State just did to you on Friday night? You play them later in March. You got to return the favor in San Francisco. That's what you got to do. Phoenix, you got another matchup with the Phoenix Suns. You've already beaten that. You've already beaten Phoenix, and Phoenix, they are 3 games under 500. They are 11th. They are the team right behind you. You want to keep Phoenix behind you. So when you play them, you got to beat them. San Antonio, you got one more meeting against San Antonio. They are behind you. And with the news that Wemby is out for the season, hopefully he gets well, beat them. Beat the teams behind you. And then you also, so just beat the teams that are maybe in front of you, and also beat the teams ahead of you. Like you got Portland, who you've lost to twice, and they are behind you. You got Memphis. If you like Memphis is in that top 6 in the West. Houston, who you got the second game of this road trip, you beaten them twice. So it's not going to be like if the Kings, the one thing the Kings have got to do, like they had 18 turnovers tonight, you gotta fix that. You absolutely have to fix the turnovers because you can't be turning the ball over against teams like Houston or Memphis or Denver or some of these better teams in the West or in the East, because they will make you pay and they will beat you handily. So if the Kings can clean up on the turnovers here as they make their run to better the position in the play-in, it's going to be better for them. So 25 games left. As I like to say, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride. It's not going to be easy. And there's going to be games during this stretch. It's going to be frustrating. But beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Like you did tonight against the Hornets. Not a great team. They got some good young talent, but they're not ready yet. You're facing a Utah team who you've beaten multiple times this season. Take care of business Wednesday. When you go to Houston on Saturday, when you tip that ball up on Saturday, the Kings should be 2 games over 500. That's what they should be. I want the Kings to be at 30-28 when they tip that ball up on Saturday. Take care of business in Utah against the Jazz. But outside of that third quarter tonight, I thought it was a really good game for the Kings. They took care of business against a not so great Charlotte Hornets team. They built the lead up to 20 at halftime. Charlotte came out the more aggressive team in the third. Kings fell asleep. They got it down to 9 points. Kings got it back up to 16, and they exploded in the fourth for a 42-point win on a Zach LaVine game where he scored 42 points. So really good win for the Kings. Charlotte, their biggest lead in this game tonight was only 6 points, and that was early in the first half. But Kings win 130-88. They are now back to 1 game over 500 at 29-28, as they are 10th in the Western Conference. That final play-in spot in the West as the stretch run continues for the Sacramento Kings. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, leave a comment down below in the YouTube comments. If you're listening on your preferred audio platform, Apple, Spotify, please hit that follow button, rate 5 stars, leave a nice little review, be much appreciated, and we're also available wherever else you get your favorite podcasts. Kings steamroll the Charlotte Hornets for a 42-point victory on the Utah, and we'll see you for our next episode following Kings Jazz on Wednesday night. As always, go Kings and light the beam. See you Wednesday following Kings and Jazz.